Fragments of Silicon, now investigating who put all these words in this visual novel.
All right, welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. Indeed, it is the season finale as we wrap up season 16. Yep, we've done 16 seasons of this with a 17th plan. Onward and onward this train goes. Right, let's see who to start things off this week. Alex, why don't you have the honors?
Well, a lot of games came out recently, so I'm having a hard time deciding which ones to actually play. Between Digimon Survive, Xenoblade 3, Gunvolt 3, and then there's the ones we have to play for reviews too, although we don't have that right now, but there was last week. So, that's being interesting. On the plus side, since a bunch of new games, I was able to locate, or I noticed that on Amazon they had a new vendor for the style of game case that I like that fits in my Switch travel case nicely, so I got some more of those so I can at least carry around all the games I'm trying to find time to play compactly. And I mean, it's still not like I've actually finished Pokemon Legends Arceus or the other Kirby Forgotten Land, although that one is mostly because I have been trying to play it with a friend and haven't had too much time with that. Let's see. Crap, I had something.
But lost it, apparently.
Uh-huh.
You check your junk drawer.
Uh... We managed to play Macross again with Mac last week, and that went well. We'll see how it goes this week, because reliability is not always the strongest suit of everyone involved.
I mean, I think that might be the most obvious stub tweet ever.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, the beginning of show quote was a reference to how apparently some of the reviews for Digimon Survive are people dinging it for being largely a visual novel, in spite of the fact that it was repeatedly advertised
as a visual novel.
As being mostly visual novel with additional strategy RPG battles. So, you know.
What's that? Digimon players being dumb? Perish the thought.
Consumers pay attention to things, apparently.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm sure I had something else, but I will pass it off rather than wasting time trying to figure out what it was.
Okay. Well, that means Petty, you're up.
I guess the big thing is I've basically been playing phone tag with my neurologist office to get some injections in my legs to help with the muscle pain I have. So that's been fun.
No.
Outside of the...
I can relate. More on that in a bit.
Yeah, outside of that, I believe part 10 of Digimon Survive, so I've been trucking along nicely on that. And yeah, not a whole lot big to report, just kind of waiting for new content to drop in 14, which should be, I think it's the Tuesday before we come back from break is when it's supposed to drop. So, hooray for that.
Okay.
And then, yeah, just been kind of playing Digimon and kind of existing.
Okay.
So, you're up, Adam.
Yeah. All right. Jeez. Let's see. Yesterday was my birthday.
Oh, man.
Yes. And I got a distressing amount of happy birthdays involving forced evacuation day. I don't know why. Like,
Well, you live in Florida, so I was...
no. I mean, like, forced uterine
Yeah,
evacuation day. Like, and forced, like, and it was from multiple different people that didn't know each other. Like, I don't know why this was so prevalent, but bit off-putting.
yeah, I would imagine.
Like, so yeah, I think I mentioned a few months ago that I already got like the big gift, and also it's been an expensive summer to say the least. Like, well, I mean, I had to. There was another big expense today, but
Fun.
yeah, I'm like it really wasn't, but
The air quotes fun.
yes, but yes, you know, so yeah, it was a pretty subdued birthday, but it's like when you reach the ages I am reaching, that tends to happen. Like, 60 years is something you don't celebrate with too much vigor, let's say. Like, but yeah, so today I had my eye doctor's appointment. Like, and that went interestingly because
Do you still have eyes?
yes. I'm like, but they tracked down the source of my eye strain I'm having. Like, it turns out the people who made my previous glasses fucked up.
Oh, wow.
Oh, were they literally the wrong prescription, or?
Yes. Like, or it, they put a anti stigmatism dealy in the lenses. Like,
Oh, when there shouldn't be?
yes. Well, it's like, and they overcompensated. Like,
Ah,
so it's like it's doing too much, and apparently that's what was leading to the blurry vision.
that'll do it.
Like, yeah. Also the blue, the blue lights. I'm like, um, from staring at monitors and screens a large percentage of a given day. Like, so the upshot after all the testing and such is, like, yeah, my vision isn't too good. I'm like, but it's like, it's a lot better than some other people might have or whatever. Like, the overall point is, this doctor is prescribing me a set of glasses that will allow for 20/20 actual 20/20 vision in my lenses,
Oh, man.
and will have the anti-glaring, the blue light reflection, and transitionals. Actually, the first time in decades I'll have transitionals.
Yeah, I do like those.
It will help when driving during the day. Because I can't exactly wear sunglasses, and the sunglasses filters are too fucking goofy for me. Like, well, I mean, I was given a pair because, of course, they did the eye dilation.
Yeah.
Like, and good God, it was extra bad because it wasn't just drops. It was like a whole pore.
Oh, fun.
Like, yeah. I'm wondering, like, yeah, I'm shutting my eyes because you're pouring like a vat in my eye. Like, sorry, I can't really clamp down on the natural reflexes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the upshot is my insurance covers the eye exam. I get a free one of those every year, and it covers some of the expense of the glasses, but not all of it. You know, it's like, the issue is, how do I have to get expensive glasses because
Mm-hmm.
of where my eyes are.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like my sister. If her regular glasses would be basically like Coke bottles and
Yeah,
actually cause other vision problems because of how big they would be.
yeah. Like, I used to have those back before they could make lenses, in the way that they do. Like, but believe me, I'm glad that those are a thing in the past. Like, but it's like, fortunately, it's something that was able to be absorbed. Let's say, like, um, and they will be. The new glasses are coming in 2 weeks. So while I'm like, while I was waiting for the doctor to be done with another patient, while my eyes were dilating, like, I get a call from the CT scan people, which I was supposed to have tomorrow,
Mm.
and they had to delay this because apparently they ran out of contrasting fluid. Like,
Ooh, that's never good.
no, now it's been delayed until the 23rd, which means tomorrow I have to call the ears, nose, and throat doctor to delay that appointment because there is no point in going to the specialist there without the CT scan. That's the point of the CT scan, to look under the hood and determine if there's anything wrong with this shrinking neck mass. Now, I don't think so, considering it's very slowly draining, but you know. But now I have to wait a few more weeks and, have to deal with this rigmarole. So that's been my week. Um, it's been a fairly busy day. But I suppose not as busy as this week is going to be, as I thought. Anyway, so that's all my news. So merrily we shall roll along to the interview portion of the broadcast. And joining us is our good friend from MangaGamer, John Pickett.
Hello, it's good to be back again.
And it's always good to have you. Right. So let's see here. I think we have 4 visual novels to talk about this time around. Or rather, the first one here is actually, I think, a type of, well, I say visual novel in the general sense, but this is actually a different beast altogether, because I think this is the first time we're talking about a sound novel, because those tend to be actually a much rarer beast.
Isn't that just a radio play?
Well, I mean, with this, it's kind of in between.
Yeah.
Because,
You're talking about Higurashi, right?
yeah, Higurashi, where they cry, Howray.
So in this one, the whole term sound novel that you're referring to in this context actually, I forget the exact title, but it dates all the way back to a game that I want to say it was Chunsoft created for the Nintendo. And that too was a horror game developed, back in the 8-bit era, where it used mostly text, what visuals it could produce, and the sounds that the consoles were able to generate and emulate to really create that atmosphere of horror. And unlike your sort of standard visual novel, there's not really any choices you make in the game. It progresses from start to finish. And it's very much about enjoying the experience.
And how would you say that Ray here has evolved from those 8-bit origins, if that is a thing that has happened?
So I would say, like with the Higurashi series, it very much, you can very much see the inspiration in it to, from that game in the series. It's very much the same idea. The story is first, foremost, and absolutely the strongest portion of it. The sounds, be it the music or things like the cicadas, all tie in to build that atmosphere and create that sense of suspense. I would say the biggest thing is just the visual improvement. You can do a lot more when you can actually have, drawn pictures in standing art as compared to, 8-bit graphics.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of sound, is it just like noises, or is there a soundtrack as well? Like, is there music in this?
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
It's very much.
All right. All right. So with that out of the way, exactly what part of Higurashi does Ray deal with? Because that's always a big thorny thing.
Yeah. So Ray is sort of 3 chapters that were developed after the original story of Higurashi. So you have the question arcs, the first 4 chapters, you have the answer arcs, the second 4 chapters, and then in Higurashi Ray, you have 3 new chapters that sort of add on to the world, but they're not necessarily as joined to the main story as the others. For example, the first chapter in Ray, Sai Koroshi, it's considered something of an epilogue to the series because this is a chapter that looks at what if, Rika and the characters were sent to a world, a timeline where the main tragedy of Higurashi never took place. The events that trigger everything in Higurashi never happen. And it's the idea of, is this, potential world, potential outcome for the universe really better than what all the characters have gained by going through the tragedies and experience of the main Higurashi game. The second chapter in Ray, Higurashi, is an adaptation of a special story that was created for Higurashi Daybreak, which was an old fan game created to sort of make like a fighting game style thing out of Higurashi. And so the sort of story for the Higurashi chapter is that the characters discover these pair of magatama, which cause whoever holds one half of the pair to fall in love with the holder of the other half of the pair. And of course, these magatama change hands a lot throughout the chapter. So it's a lot of crazy, sort of funny comedic hijinks of the characters being thrown in these situations where they're sort of forced to fall head over heels for completely ludicrous pairings. And then the third chapter of the Ray release is Batsu Koichi. Now, this chapter was originally intended as one of the sort of after-party joke dialogues that he wrote originally wrote it for the end of chapter 5, but it ended up being sort of so ludicrous and out there that he scrapped it because he felt that it would completely just destroy the atmosphere that you came away with after the ending of that chapter. And so it's sort of been released on its own here, and you just can see all the characters going absolutely crazy. It's super hilarious, it's super comedic, and it's very much a refreshing sort of look at sort of the other sides of some of the characters that don't necessarily get as explored in the main chapters.
Okay. And how large are these chapters? Like, how long does it take to get through one of these particular chapters, since they are so special, let's say?
So none of the individual chapters are anywhere near as long as, say, a single main chapter of Higurashi. That's part of why it's this release, even though it's 3 of them, is priced in comparison to our other individual chapter releases.
Okay. And as I understand it, this is the end of the line for Higurashi, correct?
Almost. So we did license Higurashi the Ho version, and that is going to add 3 more chapters on to the game. One of the chapters in the upcoming Ho release is the Hinamizawa bus stop, which is sort of the prototype theater play. So Ryukishi had originally created Higurashi, the Hinamizawa bus stop, as sort of a screenplay to be performed like in a theater, and that is what he eventually ended up adapting and expanding out into the full Higurashi series. So that one is in the Ho release, and it also includes 2 new chapters which very much delve into the, quote unquote gods of Higurashi, but I won't go too much more into that right now. It's in spoilers.
And what state of completion is this particular package in?
The Ho chapters are, for the most part, translated and edited. There was a recent update to them, the Ho Plus update, so we just need to go back and tweak and adjust to the new Plus content that was added, and then we should be able to move forward with programming and getting that towards release.
Okay. Let's see. So, shifting gears here, I believe the next game that was mentioned is Patient S, or Patient S Remedy by its full title.
Yes.
And I think this is one of your published works, or something like that.
Yeah. So this is a little bit unique in that so the game itself is created by the developers Mata Labo, which is the same developer that created Naked Butlers. So, fans of BL, this is, a game they're probably very much looking forward to. And he released the Japanese version of the game himself on Steam, and then because we've worked with him before, he essentially hired our company to do the localization and sort of help with the publication of it here in the West. So
Is that
So we have exclusive rights to the uncensored version since he can't publish that being in Japan. But the
so?
yeah.
That one goes deep, so to speak.
Yes, they very much go balls deep in that game.
And so I'm guessing by the title, this involves doctors or the hospital in some capacity.
So in the Patient S remedy, the world of this game, there is a disease known as the candle disease, which is sort of causes the men who contract it to waste away and sort of typically die within 5 years. And the main protagonist is diagnosed with this disease, but the doctors also believe that sort of there's something about him and his body and the way it responds to this disease that they believe he might be the potential for them to discover a cure for candle disease so that others will not have to suffer it in the future. And essentially, they sort of propose to him that if he will consent to participating in their experiments and their trials, they will kind of give him sort of special privileges and overlook certain behavior while he's within the hospital ward that's generally kept isolated from the rest of the world.
Huh. And is this a romantic kind of visual novel? Like, do you get to pick the suitors sort of deal, or is it just pure linear storytelling?
It definitely has different routes based on which of the other male patients you choose to show more of an interest in.
Okay. And who are the other patients?
So there is Haruki Mishima, who's sort of a younger, weaker guy. There is Manabu Minagawa, sort of an older office worker that used to work for a consulting company. People generally say he has a bad personality and tends to be condescending. There's also Mitsuo Yasuda, who's older, about around, in his 40s. He's lost his wife in a car accident before he caught the disease and ended up in the hospital, and is generally more concerned about others than himself.
Okay. And is there like difficulty levels in wooing or whatever's going on here? And is it like just a single route, or can you engage in multiple partners in this affair?
So this one, I mean, there's not really a harem ending in this game. It's generally, if you want to sort of progress your relationship with one of the men, it's generally more about which of the men you focus spending time with when you have sort of the options to go around the hospital, and you have to sort of balance that also with sort of like keeping your own mood and health up, because sort of whether or not you sort of successfully participate in the trials also determines the ending. Part of the ending is sort of determined by whether or not you actually manage to help contribute and develop a cure. So
Like, how many endings are there here?
I want to say at least 5, but I think because there's definitely sort of a bad ending where you fail, and there's at least one for each of the male protagonists, and I think there's a couple others hidden throughout it as well.
Okay. Let's see, and is this one of the voiced visual novels?
Yes, it's full voice.
Okay, including the protagonist, or is he silent?
I believe he actually is voiced.
Oh, that's a rarity.
It's usually a little less rare in BL games, though, to be honest.
Fair. I mean, I suppose you're dealing with all
Probably
guys.
also just vocal lines and not literally all narration.
Yeah, exactly.
And let's see. So moving onwards, we've got Nightmare Sisters, Sacrificed of Lust Hell.
Yes, that was one of our most recent announcements at Otakon this past weekend.
Mm-hmm.
In that one, their main heroines are two nuns that have they were raised to be nuns in their orphanage, and also raised to be exorcists who use their powers to expel demons from those who are possessed by them. And in true eroge fashion, one of the heroines ends up captured by a cult that is trying to essentially breed and create more of these demons. The other goes to save her, fails, and what follows is an absolute treat for people who love gangbangs.
Well then, like, okay, so where to start here? Like, now when you say sisters, is that just in the nun sense of the word, or are they actual sisters here?
The nun sense of the word.
Okay, because I know that is definitely a thing that that can sometimes crop up in these eroge. Like, and like in terms of, once again, nunnery or being a nun, are they like good nuns, or are they just like kind of fetishistic nuns?
I mean, so they were raised to be good nuns, and that is sort of how they've lived their lives. But obviously, the game is much more focused on sort of their fall and corruption as they're repeatedly used by the cult.
Oh boy, more of that. Like, so the questions I have to ask for this show sometimes, like, because, well, I mean, just this question is on the surface kind of odd, and trying to struggle. Where else is this going to come up? But how large does the gangbang get?
I was gonna say I don't think it ever gets to the point that you can't count how many are involved. I know I have worked on games where that is a thing. But no. Definitely I would say definitely more than 5 on average, but I don't think it's typically more than a dozen.
Okay, like I said, these are the questions that crop up when we talk about these kinds of things. And here's another one. In terms of the gangbang, is it 1-on-1, 2-on-1, 3-on-1, or do we get up to, let's say, 3 to a girl? Like I said,
I think there's definitely at least a couple scenes where there's at least 3 to a girl. Yeah, usually that's usually the it's definitely multiple men on one girl. Usually not so much with the girls being forced to do anything with each other. Much more, but sometimes there are definitely scenes where both girls are getting railed.
like the particular nuances of a gangbang visual novel, like like yes, and once again, I'm assuming that this one's just kind of all linear, because I'm like,
yeah, pretty much.
because I'm like, I'm assuming that, let's just say, even I'm going to imagine that this is one of those where all the emphasis is on the girls. It's like, this can be hard to describe for people who haven't seen this particular phenomenon in, like, not just visual novels, but a lot. I've seen hentai do this.
Yeah.
It's like, because the guy.
Nightmare Sisters is definitely much more closer to the hentai than sort of your story focused visual novel. Absolutely.
Yeah, because like when it comes to these things, like the guys won't even get defined faces.
Yeah, that's generally what you're looking at in this one.
Or they'll be really inexplicably ugly, like just the ugliest people you can imagine. Like I don't know what that is, and I'm assuming there's a particular fetish for it, but
yeah.
Like, and are there multiple endings to this? It's like I'm not exactly sure what the outcome here is. Is it like having the girls?
I don't think there's really a whole lot of endings to this, because I know this is. So I know for one thing, so Nightmare Sisters is actually the first title in the company's Nightmare series. So there are several other games that will come and are sort of new added chapters to the series.
Okay. Like, do you know how many installments there are?
I believe there are at least 3 total.
And do you know if this is like a completed series, or if, like, they could attack on a 4th one here?
I want to say it's finished, but I'm not 100% positive. And it doesn't help that, sometimes companies can just decide they want to go back and add a new one.
True enough.
Okay, there's at least 4 in the series that are currently 4 that are currently released. The 4th one was released just last Christmas.
I'm like, and I'm going to take a wild stab in the dark here and say that I would not be surprised to see a 5th one of these get released somewhere down the line. And so I guess that brings us to the 4th and I think final title that we want to showcase here, and that is Funbag Fantasy 4, Brother Astor. Yes, another one of the Funbag Fantasies is on its way here. Are you working on this one too? Like, I think you did work on 2 or 3?
I haven't done the translation for the series, but I've been the project manager for the Funbag series.
Okay. And is that a thing that you're still doing with 4 here?
Yeah, it is. We have the same translator from the other games within the series.
Yeah.
So, if fans of the series can rest assured that it's in good hands. The 4th one is set about 1,000 years after Funbag Fantasy 3, and about 400 years before Funbag Fantasy 1.
You know, I didn't think that this is a series that would get chronologically confused, but here we are. Like, I'm going to assume that's relevant in some way.
To those following this larger series as a whole, it's still very much, you could jump in with 4 and enjoy 4 all on its own.
Okay.
It's just little things like the fact that the church that the main character of 4 is a part of, you first saw it in Funbag Fantasy 3, and you know some of what he does, it comes up later.
Right. And I suppose moving to the other part of the title here, who exactly is Brother Astor?
So Brother Astor is raised in a monastery, the Church of Eastern Rood, where he serves as a monk. The village that he works in, every now and then suffers minotaur raids that are attacking in reprisal for the larger kingdom's attempts to expand their territory and develop the land. And sort of his story begins when the nation's queen orders the monastery to take up arms and help defend the village, because she refuses to wed any of the minotaurs to assure peace between their two nations.
Huh. Maybe they just need to build a labyrinth. That seems to take care of Minotaur problems.
Yes. Well, or they just need someone with a nice love of breasts that can help help facilitate communications.
Yes. Like, so I guess another question that comes to mind here is, are there Minotaur girls here, or is everyone a human, or, like an elf or something like that?
So the first heroine in the game is one of the village girls that our protagonist saves. Following in that story, after he sort of helps save the village, he gets promoted. And then the second heroine is the head of a convent, and when he sort of helps smooth over troubles there, he starts getting developing a relationship with her. The third heroine is another merchant that he saves from Minotaur attacks. The fourth heroine is a dark elf who works for one of the enemies of the protagonist's nation. And the final heroine is the queen herself.
So no Minotaurs, like of the female persuasion.
Not in this one.
Like, and I don't know. It's like, what outside of like the timeline / plot differentiators, what new things can people expect from the fourth game in the Funbag Fantasy? I know there's been more releases than that, but this is called 4.
Yeah. So in Funbag 4, it's a little bit of a return to the roots of that classic hero's journey that you see in Funbag Fantasy 1, where you have the sort of average, ordinary person, rising to fame and power. for his love of breasts in a way, basically. It's something that they sort of chose to go back to after feedback they got from Funbag Fantasy 3, where the main protagonist was, sort of a god who, while his power had waned, is simply sort of regaining his power through the worship of people.
And again, how do I put this right? So in terms of, let's say, huge tracts of land, have they been escalating through the releases? Or put another way, have the tits been getting bigger? Or have they stayed the same? Have they actually been getting smaller? Like
it's hard to get bigger than the the nymph princess from the original Funbag Fantasy. So I would say the variety and the range of breast sizes has very much stayed the same.
So it's not just
ranges from big to absurd, basically.
Well, I think that's expected.
Yeah.
But I suppose another, does this game ever go in the opposite direction? Just throws in somebody petite to, for the sake of spice or catering to, people.
I think, and by Funbag Fantasy standards, petite is D or E cups.
Right. I get that, but I'm have you seen somebody sporting an A cup here?
No.
I'm once again, not surprised, but sometimes,
At the very least, not amongst the heroines.
I'm this thing knows what its particular kink is.
Yes.
And so is this one coming to Steam?
Quite likely, just by the virtue of the fact that we have managed to get every single other Funbag Fantasy released on Steam. It seems to be fine with big breasts, so.
That is impressive. So does this one have a harem ending?
Oh, absolutely. Every Funbag Fantasy does.
I would expect no less.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's my gamut of questions for these particular releases. I'll see if my colleagues here have anything to add to the conversation.
I think I'm good.
Yeah, I think you've explained it pretty well.
So, John, are there any other titles you want to mention at this juncture?
That covers I think that covers the new releases.
Okay.
Because have we talked on the last time I was on here? Did we talk about Rance 03 and LKYT?
I think so.
Okay. Because we announced those at we announced those at Anime Expo this year. So.
Yeah, I think we talked about those. So. Yeah. Always good to have you on the program. And in terms of you returning, we could have you back on October 12th.
October 12th. Sounds good.
All right. So yeah, until then, as usual, be sure you can pick up some of these on Steam, but if you want to guarantee availability, just go to the MangaGamer website, and they will they will have the titles in question uncensored to boot. I believe, in the case of Patient S, there will be an adult patch available.
Yeah, there is. You just have to come to MangaGamer to get it.
All right. So, Patty, play us to the next segment. All right, welcome to the topic of discussion. So this week, we are talking about Gunstar Heroes. I said we were going to talk about the Legacy of Kain, Blood Omen plot, but honestly, I think I want to hold that for the larger discussion of the Kain franchise, because there's a lot there, like, and it's just going to be easier if I can go into like what Bordor's doing in multiple titles, or Mobius, sorry. Um,
That's something entirely different.
yes, like, um, so instead we're going to be talking about Gunstar Heroes because I recently played that, and it still holds up. But it's not too surprising since um, Gunstar Heroes, in case you don't know, was the brainchild of Treasure, a developer that used to be really prominent in the hardcore gaming scene, both in the 90s and the 2000s, but they kind of fell off the face of the earth, uh, mainly due to the failure of a thing called like Geist Crusher or something like that. It was some Japanese meta franchise that didn't do too hot, and ever since that, Treasure had to drastically reduce their staff size. I think it's just one guy now. Like, and thing to past few years that they've been able to release is Ikaruga ports. I can't really count the porting of their Genesis games to modern systems because I don't think Treasure has ever handled those. Like, it's usually some third party because a lot of the stuff they did on the Sega Genesis isn't owned by them. That was all done in conjunction with Sega. Like, when it comes to Gunstar Heroes, Sega owns that, not Treasure. But anyway, Gunstar Heroes was actually their first game as Treasure, but they did have quite the legacy before Gunstar Heroes. They the bulk of Treasure at that period in time was made up of ex-Konami staff. And they worked on some high-profile Super NES titles, like Castlevania 4 and Contra 3, if I'm remembering correctly. There was probably a Turtles game in there, and so on and so forth. The point is, it might seem a bit unusual that a bunch of programmers and such that cut their teeth on the Super NES went over to the Genesis. There were a few reasons for this. It's like one was challenged. I believe that they wanted to challenge themselves by working on hardware they had never worked on before. Another is speed. Like, once again, in case you don't know, one of the, like, I'd say the biggest advantage the Genesis had over the Super NES was processor speed. If you're a shmup fan, you know exactly what this is. It is like the Genesis was able to handle a lot more in the way of sprites on the screen at the same time with faster efficiency. This is why.
Something blast processing.
Sure, why not? But it's more. This is why Thunder Force 3 runs really well, and things like Super R-Type and Gradius 3 run like shit on the Super NES. Mind you, these are also early day shooters or shmup ports to the Super NES. So, they eventually figured out how to do shmups on the Super NES, but even the good ones aren't really renowned for being fast. Not in the way Genesis or TurboGrafx 16 shmups are known for. And it's like, and I know Gunstar Heroes isn't a shmup. In fact, Treasure wouldn't really visit the shmup genre until I think God, what was it? Not Ikaruga, but the Saturn game. I've forgotten it. And I'm gonna have to look this up because it's gonna bother me otherwise. Um, and but Gunstar Heroes is a run and gun platformer, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and as far as the question here is, who here has actually played Gunstar Heroes?
I have.
Oh, and it's Radiant Silver Gun. That's what it was. Like, and like you can see the Konami influence um, up front. It's like it's cut from the Contra cloth, pretty significantly.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely got enough quirkiness to stand on its own. Because it's like, even though this is a first game, you got some treasure tropes showing up here, like a ton of bosses. Um, it's not nutso like Alien Soldier or Wario World will become, but there are a lot of bosses for a run and gun.
Yeah.
You know, uh, and like a lot of these games, it's really fucking difficult. Like, it's like, but it's
I mean, this was still the generation where they were still coming off arcade games,
yeah. But
and
unlike,
also
say,
just fighting up against like content programming limits. There's only so much you can fit in the game, so
yeah.
they made them harder to make it take longer to go through.
um, but this has a variable difficulty curve. Unfortunately, it's got that old school difficulty curve in that if you pick easy mode, you can't play the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people have the ableist debate these days. It's like, back in the day, it's like if you picked easy mode, it's like you weren't seeing the entire thing. Like, and this was not a isolated incident. Granted, it wasn't, it didn't get insulting like, say, Ninja Gaiden to the Xbox did, like, Ninja Dog mode and shit.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still there. It's still there. But such things can be remedied by the fact that, once again, Gunstar Heroes is not exactly a hard game to play and find, because it's a game that shows up pretty regularly in Sega's classic compilations. Like Petty here is playing the Sega Genesis collection for the PC. Unlike the Sonic games, this is still available for purchase. It's not the best emulated version of the game in the world. That award probably goes to something that was handled by M2. But this gets the job done in a pinch, especially if you're not too picky about playing on real hardware. But I suppose another thing that made Gunstar Heroes stand out, other than the look of the thing, is it kind of threw a bit of the brawler into the mix, and kind of forced. Well, it kind of also foreshadowed Mischief Makers, because throwing the enemy is not a big mechanic, but a pretty notable secondary mechanic. Like I said, it's not like Mischief Makers where they build the entire game around the shake and throw mechanic, but you can see the future DNA pretty clearly. Like, and as far as what the story of Gunstar Heroes is, well, it's pretty simple, as you'd probably expect from something from the 16-bit era. definitely has a lot.
You got
more,
a bunch of color-coded named soldier people, and they're fighting for reasons.
Yeah, I'm like, it definitely has more character and personality than your average Contra game, but it's like it's definitely got less of that than later Treasure games. Like I was once again bringing up Mischief Makers, that has a ton more personality than Gunstar Heroes here. Like this is pretty sedated on their quirk scale. Um, but yeah, you play as Gunstar Red and Gunstar Blue, who are battling an evil empire over the control of a set of powerful gems. Like, and yeah, it's like you have to take down the likes of Orange, Pink, and probably most notably, like I forget the like, trying to remember her name, like I forget the role analog's name here, like Purple, I want to say, like Violet. I do not remember, but her brother Green brings to the table probably the most notable boss in the game, because no discussion of Gunstar Heroes is complete without a mention of Seven Force. If you don't know who Seven Force is, go read a listicle of the greatest bosses in history. He regularly shows up on those lists. I'm like, because, you know, to put simply, it's because he is 7 bosses in one, depending on the difficulty. Like, if you fight him on normal mode, you're only going through 3 or 4 of his forms. If you play on expert difficulty, you will have to run through the entire 7 forces. And, there are things like trying to remember all the forces, like there's the gun force and like the octopus force, that kind of thing. And clearly, with 7 forces, he's a marathon. And if I remember correctly, there's no save in this game. It's actually a fairly short game, which is understandable because this is an intense game as well. Like, especially at the end, like fighting gold and silver on expert mode is something you're going to be glad for a rewind feature. No. And yeah, in terms of weaponry, this game goes off of a combo system, where you can pick up various weapons and combine them into various forms. Like there's a machine gun, there's a fireball, there's a search, and then there's like I want to say, is it energy or lightning? And through those 4, you can combine even with itself, which gives you a more powerful version of that weapon. Now, I usually prefer the search functionality weaponry because it makes things easier to hit. And it's like in terms of graphics, music, and all that stuff, it's all top shelf. Like, if you haven't experienced it, I'd recommend it. And yeah, any questions, comments, anything else to add to Gunstar Heroes here?
Not that I can think of.
I think I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, not the deepest of conversations, but once again, Gunstar Heroes is a run and gun.
I'm a little surprised we haven't really talked about it before. I know it has a reputation for being particularly good among what it is.
like once again, like it's not even really centered around a mechanic, like a lot of other treasure games are. You know, like if you bring up, say, Ikaruga, what comes up? Like the light dark theming, which is, um, which is unique for a shmup. You know, adding this puzzle mechanic to a shmup was a stroke of genius. Or, you know, once again, Mischief Makers. Or Alien Soldier, which really brought the whole boss gimmick to its logical outcome, where you got a game that's pretty much nothing but bosses. Like, you know, Gunstar Heroes is a very good run and gun platformer, but it's not as gimmicky, for better or for ill, as other later treasure releases, um, or as character driven. As like even Dynamite Heady has a lot more in terms of character than this game. You know, that's not to put it down. It's just they got quirkier as they went along. And given
Mm-hmm.
how quirky, you know, just you know, look at the thing. Like it definitely, you know, it looks quirky, but you know, just compared to Mischief Makers, and that game is like quirk off the charts. There's also a Game Boy Advance sequel called Gunstar Superheroes, but I never played
That
that
I
one.
played a little bit, but not much.
Yeah, I never played that one, and I think the vast majority of people didn't play it either. Anyway, so yeah, that'll about do it for this installment and this season of Fragments of Silicon. Um, as always, thank you for tuning in. If you have, either for the live version or the recorded version, and we hope to see you all, so to speak. Even though, like, I know there are people who watch this, it's just our audience is very quiet for the most
Mm-hmm.
part. Like, um, so, but you know, we will see you in season 17. And until then, I shall wish you good gaming.